Joining us now for a closer look at the legality of the DOGE's actions, Elizabeth Wydra, president of the Constitutional Accountability Center. Elizabeth, it's great to have you back on Bloomberg TV and radio. An important moment this week is the Supreme Court, of course, the Supreme Court that Donald Trump helped to populate, rejected the administration's efforts to not pay a couple of $2 billion for work already done through the USAID. What does that mean for future rulings? How does that enforce or inform the next ruling from the Supreme Court on this?
Well, if you look at just the text of the order that came from the Supreme Court this week, it was basically a paragraph-long, unsigned opinion from the court that essentially was more about the logistics of the case. It said the government only came up to the Supreme Court challenging a certain deadline. That deadline has since passed, so they sent it back to the district court. They didn't opine on the ultimate merits of the case. If you only looked at that one paragraph, you might say this isn't really about much. But clearly, there is much more to read into that. And for further reading into it, you just have to look to the 4 justices who put forward a dissent. So we don't know exactly who joined that opinion because it's unsigned, but we can guess from the 4 much more conservative justices who openly dissented from the order that there were only 5 justices in the majority. You needed 5 at least to win, and if 4 are saying this is not what we would have done, then you know you couldn't have had 5. And so we're assuming that Chief Justice Roberts and Judge Amy Coney Barrett joined with the more liberal justices, Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson, to allow the district court to continue the challenges to Trump's funding freeze for USAID. Now, the reading more into it is where, of course, this gets very interesting, because the dissenting conservative justices are outraged that the Supreme Court is allowing the district court to basically put the brakes on the across-the-board extraordinary funding freeze put in place by the Trump administration and with the help of Elon Musk and DOGE. Of course, a lot of us are also looking at that decision to say, does this mean that there are at least 5 justices on the Supreme Court who are willing to be that constitutional guardrail, the constitutional check and balance against the Trump administration? And so we're reading a lot into what is a fairly procedural ruling, but it's obviously extremely important.
Well, and when we consider that it's not just President Trump who was pursuing this, but also Elon Musk, I want to ask you about Musk's role in particular, Elizabeth. As during his address to Congress on Tuesday night, President Trump did refer to Elon Musk as the head of the Department of Government Efficiency, a title that the administration says belongs to another individual. This is what Trump said.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
Elizabeth, what is the potential legal ramification of the president saying on the record that it's headed by Elon Musk?
Yes, I'm sure there were some audible groans from his lawyers who have been arguing in court that there is another person who is in fact the acting head of DOGE. And this is important because, as we've seen with, when you think about all of the high stakes nomination battles we've seen for cabinet posts or high level officials in the Trump administration, the normal way of going through this, the one that's set out in the Constitution, is that the president puts forth the people he wants to implement his agenda. And then the Senate gives its advice and consent as required by the Constitution. And then these folks are put in place to pursue the president's political agenda. That, of course, has not happened with Elon Musk. He has not gone through the regular channels, not the Senate advice and consent channel, not even the normal way in which we hire senior federal workers. And so there have already been challenges in court to Elon Musk's actions. And, that would be true no matter what he was doing. But I think when he's taking actions that so deeply affect so many people, deeply affect Americans in their everyday lives, then that just makes the question even more urgent.
All right, Elizabeth Wydra, we have to leave it there, but hope to have you back soon. President of the Constitutional Accountability Center, thank you so much for joining us.